Imagine this. You're deep underground in a forgotten dungeon, surrounded by danger at every single turn. The flicker of your torch barely illuminates the ancient corridors as the sound of something or someone lurks just around the corner. Do you have what it takes to survive? Welcome to Dark and Darker, the hardcore dungeon crawler that released into early access last June. Now, if you've been curious about this game but haven't jumped in yet, stick around because we're breaking down everything you need to know before your first adventure. And before we get too far, I'd like to say thank you to Iron Mace for sponsoring this video. So at its core, Dark and Darker is a high-stakes first-person extraction RPG that combines dungeon crawling, brutal PvP/VE combat, and a hardcore looting system. The game is developed by Iron Mace, and this indie title has drawn comparisons to classics like Dungeons & Dragons, and then also modern extraction shooters like Escape from Tarkov. But instead of guns and grenades, you're going to be wielding swords, spells, crossbows, as you fight both terrifying monsters but also rival players, all while racing against time to escape with your loot. So the key to Dark and Darker's gripping gameplay is its methodical and strategic approach to survival. Unlike traditional dungeon crawlers where the goal is simply to progress, this game requires a balance between risk and reward. So you and your party, or you alone if you prefer solo, must navigate a dungeon full of enemies, hazards, and also rival players. Now, each run is unique, offering different challenges, different rewards. Combat is not about kind of like mindless hacking and slashing. There is a lot built into timing, positioning, and resource management. You can't just go in as a ranger and have a ton of arrows or unlimited arrows and just firing away. You can't just raise your shield and expect to block everything in front of you. If you raise your shield but you don't position it correctly, an incoming mace or sword can still deal damage to you and potentially even cause you to bleed. So a wrong move could mean losing all of your hard-earned loot, and having the cognizance to actually look around and understand the way combat works is going to be important. So what's the twist? There's only one way out. You have to find an extraction portal before the dungeon closes in on you. So if you die, you lose everything you've gathered. There's no second chances, there's no respawns back into that particular run. So this is a brutal high risk, high reward system, but it keeps each run feeling intense. There is a sense of risk. Now you can go into kind of like the lower level maps, and it's a little bit easier, a little bit more friendly. That's where I kind of cut my teeth jumping into this game, and I built up kind of a stash as well as a build, and then I would jump into the more high level things. Let's talk about some of the classes and playstyles. That way we can frame this thing out and build a picture of what Dark and Darker truly is. So one of Dark and Darker's biggest strengths is its class system. It is very diverse. There seems to be something for everybody. Each class has its own unique strengths, weaknesses, and abilities, and understanding how each class functions can make or break your success in the dungeon. So breaking this thing down, fighters and barbarians are your frontline warriors. They're tanky, they're hard-hitting, but they often lack in agility, and at the end of the day, they're just tanky. Rogues excel in stealth and surprise attacks, but are more fragile when it comes to head-on combat. Typical rogue. Clerics and bards will provide crucial support, things like keep your team alive with buffs, healing, all of those things, but they do have their weaknesses. Cleric is strong as a support and can deal good damage, but they do have slow interaction and attack speed. The Bard, on the other hand, is a strong class that can buff party members, but their downside is their reliance on playing songs correctly and the amount of noise they make, which could potentially lead to unwanted pulls. And then finally, wizards can unleash devastating magical attacks, but their long casting times require careful positioning and planning as well. So team synergy, if you're playing with other people, is going to play a crucial role in success. Having a balanced party can mean the difference between a smooth run or a disastrous failure. So let's talk about loot, the economy, and trading. So loot is the heart of Dark and Darker. Each run is an opportunity to gather weapons, armor, and magical relics that will then enhance your character's abilities, as well as outfit them with brand new gear, making them stronger and more effective, whether that's healing, damage, or tanking. But as you're out and about, and you're going through a run and you see items and loot, beware, because greed can be your downfall. So let's talk about trading. The game does feature a player-driven economy where you can trade your hard-earned loot with other players. Now this does open up some strategic options, right? Should you sell a rare item for gold or keep it for yourself to power you up for a future run? Now additionally, understanding the value of different loot tiers can help you make these informed decisions based on what's worth carrying out of a dungeon, because guess what? Your inventory is limited. You can't carry every single thing you find. So you need to actually be able to understand, okay, is this pair of gloves going to be worth the value of the space in my inventory? Or do I want to instead drop those gloves and pick up a chalice or a candelabra or some sort of treasure? Or do I want to pick up a rare weapon? So there's all different types of decisions you're going to have to make just to balance your inventory and make each run worthwhile. Now, gear itself, not all gear is created equal, right? Some items have hidden attributes that can make them more valuable than they appear at first glance. And like I said, learning to recognize these things is going to be a skill in itself, and it'll be something that you pick up and build over time as you continue to play the game. So to recap, let's talk about how a run works. You start off in the tavern with your class. You talk to the different merchants that are around the tavern. They give you quests to complete. You take these quests and they kind of send you off into different areas of the game. To start, you have access to the Goblin Mines, Frost Mountain, or the Forgotten Castle. Each one is split into two parts. The first part is the free part. This is the kind of, I'll say like lower level section of the map. And then there's also a high roller section of the map. The high roller section is locked behind a paid DLC. This is a $30 DLC that also gives you a bunch of other benefits like additional character slots, access to the trading post, and a few other things. There's a lot kind of breakdown there. But if you do want to go in and just try the game for free, you can do so using the Squire Edition. That's the one that I've been playing, and I haven't ran into any issues yet. So just keep that in mind. Now, from the tavern, and you have your quests, now we need to go into one of the maps. So you can choose Goblin Mines, for instance. You'll drop into Goblin Mines at a random spot, and then from there, you'll go through that map, killing enemies, running into other players. You can either choose to fight them, or maybe you can do a little crouch negotiation, where you just crouch up and down really quick. Some players leave you alone, other ones don't. And then from there, you collect all the loot you can, and then you need to hit up an extraction portal before your timer reaches 0. If your timer reaches 0, game over, you die, and you lose everything. So if you do lose everything, there are ways to recover that stuff. There is a goblin merchant that'll allow you to recover some of the items that you dropped on your corpse. Now these can be, they're random. They can be your high level items, your low level items, nothing that you care about, stuff you do care about. So there is a little bit of recovery, but it does cost gold. So now that we know the basics, let's talk about strategy. So here are some key tips to maximize your survival and profit in Dark and Darker. So 1, sound is everything. Stealth and awareness are crucial. Every footstep, door creak, and arrow fired gives away your position to enemies. So you want to learn to move quietly, quickly, and then listen to enemy movements. That way you can gain the upper hand and understand where people's position is, because positioning in this game is huge. Number 2, use the environment. Dungeons are filled with traps, narrow corridors, and hidden pathways. Use them to your advantage to either escape fights or set up ambushes. I've done this multiple times where I've pulled a group of enemies, I've channeled them down a narrow corridor, and I was able to just basically blast through them instead of getting surrounded and dying. Number 3, know when to extract. This is one of the things that's more of an art than a skill, where you just need to kind of understand, okay, how are things going? How are things progressing? Where am I at on the map? Do I actually need to push to try to get some more loot? Am I okay with what I have? So being able to kind of understand this is going to be important, because greed is the #1 cause of death in Dark and Darker. So sometimes knowing when to escape with decent loot is better than risking everything for a little bit more. So let's talk about why you should play. Now, this video isn't a review, it's more of a suggestion. I would highly encourage you to go out and play. And one of the questions you can ask yourself to see if this is a good fit is whether or not you're tired of the hand-holding nature of RPGs. Are you looking for something a little bit more high octane, a little more risk-reward, a little more edge-of-your-seat type of gameplay? Then if so, Dark and Darker is definitely one that I would recommend checking out. It's ruthless, it's unpredictable, it rewards skill, patience, and strategy. Every raid is going to be different, every decision matters, whether you're in it for the thrill of combat, the excitement of loot, or just the sheer satisfaction of outplaying other players. This game does deliver an experience worthwhile. So my question to you is, are you ready to dive into the darkness and test your survival skills? If you are, check out the link in my description below. And if you found this video helpful, please make sure to leave a comment below. If you want more content like this, remember to like and subscribe. But I do want to know in the comments, what class are you picking first? Is this something that you're interested in doing? And if so, what's your play style? For me, I went Ranger. I wanted to keep range from all my enemies and sort of pick apart groups as I moved throughout maps. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll see you in the dungeons.